All right, we'll call this meeting of the Historic District Commission to order at 7 p.m. and we'll seat.
Goodrich for Levinson.
Yeah, just Goodrich for Levinson. Todd, would you read the call?
Do you have the call? The publication.
No, I do not.
Not there.
You don't have it memorized all the time for credit.
They did not give me the call. I don't have the call.
On the website? No.
I can go try and find it.
Because technically I should read it, but
Right.
Okay. Yeah, well,
thank you. They're so shorty. I know, even the planning department, like the guy who approved our restaurant, everything. Even then what came down. I think it's just Deb Jones and John Reiner.
Like it's the Todd States next to it. Santa Barbara.
What they usually
This kid in college paper.
used to have
There is
9 to 8.
5 planners, but maybe there aren't people looking for these jobs.
yeah.
I don't remember like
It's so wrong, but I'm not blaming you. But I'm very sure.
Without Linda here.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because it always been told if you get your application in before noon on Thursday. Mine was in, it didn't go, it didn't get done. I looked again, I didn't bother at all. I just figured,
Oh, I got it right here.
wait a minute, I just got the agenda. I says, why am I on the agenda? I said, well, we sent it in early.
Hey, Todd.
I got it right here, but
You got it? Should we just tell them?
Put on our agenda packet, the email us.
It usually, it usually isn't, but maybe it was it on the agenda, in the agenda, it wasn't in the agenda back.
No, it was not. He found that on the website.
That's it, I mean,
Yeah,
only met him like once before.
this is the third time I've been.
Yeah, that's right now. At least the police haven't started to attend our meeting.
Not yet.
But it's the way everybody.
Do I just back on tape or do I go live for 9 or 2?
My usual reaction to that kind of thing is don't even respond.
Yeah.
If you respond, then you look defensive.
That's why I didn't respond to things really bad.
But it just depends on the short memories of the general public.
I could see it anyhow. So what did you accomplish?
But it's social media and everything else has been very destructive.
Right, I agree.
Thanks, Steve. Okay. Dear Matt, please publish the following public notice for one insertion on Monday, February 13th, 2023, Town of Groton Notice of Public Hearing, Historic District Commission. The Historic District Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, February 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the Groton Town Hall Annex, 134 Groton Long Point Road, and virtually via the Zoom platform to hear the following applications requesting a certificate of appropriateness. HCC 23-03, 41 Pearl Street, Jill Ullery, owner, Mystic River Building applicant, sidewall vent for gas stove, pin number 2619184204886. HCC 23-04, 368 Noank Road, Sally McGee, owner, Advanced Group applicant, replace front porch, pin number 26180527167. HCC 23-05, 39-41 West Main Street, Steamboat Wharf Properties, owner, Conti Company applicant, sidewalk removal. HCC 23-06, 27 West Mystic Avenue, Salvador Riccardi, owner applicant, modify COA 2393, gable window and add condenser privacy screen. Pin number 261-805-284700. A Zoom meeting link will be posted to the town's website meetings calendar or can be attended by visiting www.zoom.com. webinar ID 858-523-47917, password 408-839, or by phone 1-312-626-6799. Applications are on file and available for public inspection during normal business hours at the Planning Department, 134 Groton Long Point Road, Groton, Connecticut. Dated this 13th day of February 2023 at Groton, Connecticut. Todd Brady, Secretary.
Do I have a motion to waive the hearing procedures?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone like to read the hearing procedures? They're over there on the yellow paper. All right, start with HTC 23-01, 11 Fort Rachel Place. This is a continuance.
It's a continuous. I have a letter submitted from the owner, Perry Lawrence, just requesting that the meeting be continued to March 7th to allow the engineering and design team additional time needed to prepare the supplemental information requested by the commission.
Okay. We move to continue it right now, or we wait till after? Okay.
We do it. We do it. I'll move to continue it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, HTC 23-01 is continued. HTC 23-03, this is 41 Pearl Street, Mystic River Building. How are you?
Thanks.
Good evening. Oh, thank you.
So I believe you have the application there at the last meeting. I spoke with you preliminarily in regard to this gas fireplace installation at 41 Pearl Street. And I've submitted some photos of other similar installations within the historic district, also on Pearl Street. And as well as a photo of the vent itself.
Did your architect speak for you last time?
He came to a previous meeting, but unfortunately I was out of town at the last meeting. I had explained this, but I was out of town and Peter came and we had already installed the vent, so.
And we talked about having him move.
Right, but they're not gonna do that because of the complexity of it.
Okay.
So then we talked about having it be part of a later thing, but he can't get the building permit or can't get the permit issued for that fireplace unless we approve that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
Yeah, I missed that. That was the meeting. I missed that.
I don't see any issue with it. It would be nice if there's some way when you redesign the whole thing, you could move it, change it, get rid of it. Something.
Okay.
When Peter does his whole, right? Go a long way.
So take me through the step by step, what's gonna happen next.
Well, we're actually meeting with Pete of English tomorrow with the architect. The owner would like to do some extensive renovations there. But the house is within the floodplain. And the elevation certificate is, lower than it needs to be in order to exclude it from the floodplain requirements. So there's a considerable amount of work that needs to be done there, which would exceed, the 50% of the value of the structure. So we're having a conversation with Peter about that tomorrow to talk through what we would like to do. And some guidance as to how let's move forward.
But in the long term, is that then eventually going to be moved?
It could be, it's, they're basically redesigning the whole interior of the house. They want to add a dormer, that looks down Eldridge toward the Mystic River. They'd also have talked about an attached or detached garage on the property. So, we have trying to juggle is probably, $400,000 worth of work they'd like to do. But we're limited to 50% of the value of the structure, which is probably $155,000. We haven't done an independent appraisal as yet, but we want to kind of find out what the rules of the road are in regard to that. I know because it's a historic structure, there may be, some leniency in regard to the FEMA guidelines. So that's what we're gonna talk to Peter about tomorrow.
Personally, I am, I'm aware of these kinds of events that they do occur throughout the historic district. And in many instances, having done a fair amount of construction myself in the past, in many instances, it's not clear to me exactly how you would relocate some of these vents. In other words, what it starts to do is dictate where you can have a fireplace or a heating device inside your home. So personally, I don't consider it particularly material. I would make every effort to paint the vent, if you could, the same color as the siding.
Right. That's been done already.
Yeah, but other than that, I really don't have a problem with it. I mean, if you can relocate it, fine, but I know that relocating it is not as easy as it necessarily sounds.
But there may be a way that we can screen it a little better.
Screening would be nice. I mean, it's unfortunate because it's close to the front of the house, but
I just meant if they redesign the whole house and it moves.
and moves the thing, then you should do
So
it.
be it.
But I have one in the front of my house too. Right on Water Street, it's still there.
Thank you. John,
I'm good.
anything else? That's it. Okay. HTC 22-03 is closed. Thank you. Thank you. HTC 23-04, this is 368 Noank Road. Sally McGee. Thanks. Good evening.
I lived here about 10 months or so ago. And,
Please state your name for the
oh,
record.
sorry, Bill O'Donnell, Advanced Improvements. Let's see, here, 10 months or so ago, we have approval for the original application, which was approved on May 3rd for some renovation work on this house, which included windows, new siding, a porch repair, and a new deck off the back of the house. As the project progressed, we attempted to repair the porch, only to find that the porch supporting the port supporting structure, the members were rotted and were not really reparable. So we ended up replacing the porch mid project. What we didn't do was come back to the HDC to ask for that. We just kind of, it was an oversight, to be honest. I just plugging along with the project. And when we got completed, the homeowner, of course, asked, well, make sure the HDC approved all this, and was like, well, I have to go back to the HDC and get approval on this. So what you see here are the first 3 pages of the old porch. And the repairs were going to be made to around the front door area and the front steps, because steps weren't code. But as I said, as we started getting into it, we realized it was kind of rotted beyond repair. So we ended up replacing the front. Last 5 or 6 pages are photographs of that replacement. So it's kind of an after the fact request, but we're hoping that what we did is sufficient and suffices.
You have the materials that you used.
It was AZAC decking, everything's AZAC, rails, decking. The corbels were original, took them off, restored them, and replaced them, 10 corbels there. But the rest of the deck is pressure treated. Exactly, which is what we
You have a
had.
printed list in your packet or no?
I'm sorry.
Do you have that printed in this packet anywhere in your application or no?
It's in, I didn't print out copies of this is the original application that was approved. This is the one we submitted a couple weeks back, and it spells out AZAC on this application.
Is that in our
Print out.
folder?
I didn't print out copies of all those. I should have. It's tongue and groove, AZAC, to match what we did.
Is everything here? Is everything that's here in this?
Yes,
Everything that's in there is in the folder.
This folder right here?
No, that's the other one.
there's the original application, which is here.
I mean,
No, it's, I guess what John was getting, is there a list of materials anywhere here?
Only on the resubmitting the request for the renewal of the porch, it lists AZAC. It's on the second page. That, turn that first page, there you go.
just remind me, so. What's the only thing you did that you weren't supposed to do, or you didn't have approval to do?
The whole porch got removed and replaced. The deck, the framing,
Framing, I don't.
yeah,
And what was the original COA for?
just repairing what we thought we could repair on the deck, which was a 6 foot in front of the front porch, in front of the front door. Was sagging and rotted, that corner was sagging and rotted in these stairs. That was the original request.
So to be correct on this picture, your original was to basically replace this little section here.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think you just need to come back with a list of materials. Just so it's in there.
Okay,
The railing type, manufacturer, decking type, manufacturer, the framing doesn't matter.
well, exactly. Go, you can come back with that, sure.
No, it's just, this talks about materials, but doesn't,
Just, I mean,
it doesn't really identify what's what.
Okay, yeah, I get specifics. with
And I mean,
colors.
also, I mean, you did make a change, you changed the railing from from a shingle
Yeah,
solid rail to an open rail, which aesthetically, I have a particular problem with. You also added railings on the front steps, which by code you should have anyway.
that was part of the original request.
The railings were.
And the house across the street, this map, the new design matches the house across the street. What it's worth.
wait, you said the railings were approved? Or they were only approved on the stairs?
On the stairs.
The stairs and the
I don't remember. Yeah, I just would come back with the list of materials.
All right.
These are the corbels are the original ones you.
Yeah, the original ones, we refurbished those. And the roof and the beadboard ceiling is original.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you this, I'm gonna give you all this stuff back.
Okay.
You can put together a package that has all the requested information.
Okay.
Just for what it's worth, though, only because you're working for a contracting company, just please in the future. Don't have this happen again on other projects. 'Cause
I hear you.
We're
yeah.
having a lot of problems,
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
and there are provisions for stop work orders and fines.
yeah, I know.
All of this stuff,
Yeah.
so. It would just be better, you guys should know better. Yeah. Don't do the work if it's not approved,
I agree.
but yeah, if you come back with a list of materials, we can.
Okay.
Anything else?
It's a different subject. Generally for window replacements. SDL versus, GBG, do you guys have a preference on those for homeowners requesting more of a GBG for the grills?
Simulated divided light with the spacer bars.
Yeah, versus the SDL versus the exterior grills.
Would rather have an exterior.
I'd rather have no grills. On some of these, houses on Pearl Street, which I'm looking at a house on Pearl Street for new windows. They've got 606 grills now. And it's a mix of windows. Some are new, some are old, some are new. We kind of make them all nice. But they're looking for GBG. grills between the glass.
Probably isn't gonna happen.
Yeah, we're not huge fans of that.
Okay,
There were some new houses been built that have those, but basically we usually look for.
similar to lights.
Yeah.
Okay, just so I know. Thank you.
All right, I'll move to continue HTC 23-04. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, HTC 23-04 is continued. HTC 23-05. Steamboat Wharf Properties.
Actually, I think our engineer's on the phone. Tim Bartolomeo.
So he would be.
Here, Rosemary, you gotta introduce yourself.
My name is Rosemary Robinson. I'm from Steamboat Work. Please. He's here.
One phone, looks like.
Yeah, it's a.
Eh?
Nope, no. 5566136, one down.
Second one.
That one, yes. That would be Tim.
Can you hear us? What's his name?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. My apologies. I don't have audio on my computer right now. I can see you folks, but I can't talk, so I'm calling by phone and video separately. I'm here for Steamboat Wharf Properties. We're going to be doing an investigation and repair to the foundation of this building, to a portion of the foundation of this building.
Can you,
And,
excuse me, sir, can you state your name and your company and be? as well?
Absolutely, yes. My name is Tim DeBartolomeo. It's D-E-B as in boy, A-R-T-O-L-O-M-E-O. And the company is Sound Engineering Associates.
Thank you.
Okay. So what we're proposing to do is open up small portions of the perimeter of the building to expose some apparent damage. We did a limited investigation. There's very little room to do a full investigation of this foundation. So what we need to do here, what's happening is a portion of the brick pavers this is a part of the building that is outside of the town right of way, and it's within the footprint of the structure. You know the Army Navy store, it has an overhang that it has pedestrian access, and the
Tim.
columns come out.
Can I just cut you off for 1 second? I just was reading your letter. So if you're just gonna take
Yeah.
this stuff off and just do your work and then replace it in kind, you don't need to be here.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much. Have a good
So,
evening.
thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
So that is the case, Tim. You're
We're not changing it.
duplicating what's there.
I'm just gonna replace it in kind.
Yes.
Don't need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's good to see you all.
You too, Rosemary.
Good evening.
Okay, sorry. Make a motion.
No.
No, you can, just withdraw the application, I assume?
We ready for the sheet?
You can.
All right, I make a motion to withdraw HTC 23-05.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, HTC 23-06, 27 West Mystic Ave. Mr. McCarty.
This goes with it as well. Hello, everyone. Sal Riccardi, 27 West Mystic Avenue. I don't have my file, so I'm sorry. I submitted specs on a gable window that we modified.
Yes, yeah, that's it.
Do I need to show it? Doesn't matter.
It's just, no, you can
So I
read
have-
it. You can read basically what it is.
I have a picture of what it looks like on my phone. I had a picture printed, but I don't have it.
Isn't that the window right there? Is this the window?
Yeah, that's the window, but that's the picture
Okay.
of the structure.
The upper one and the triangle.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that was supposed to be a round window.
Right, we're going to the square window now.
Yeah.
They can't make the round window.
Well, we didn't have any time schedule on getting that window.
Right.
Yeah, at least. They didn't even give us a time. You know, if they gave us some kind of schedule. we Probably would have called out for it.
Mr. Ricardi, just since you showed it to the commission for the record, just email that to us tomorrow.
I will.
We'll have it in the record.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And then there's a condenser that we added.
And this is,
Yes, yeah, that's the specs on the condenser. And then there's a picture of the screen.
And the condenser faces the street.
Yes,
Sorry, can I ask why the decision was made to place it there?
because the other side that was available, we have a propane tank. So the propane tank had to be in a certain location. Condenser couldn't be,
Within X.
Right.
yes, yeah, it was all code.
so this cedar fence is just one panel is gonna be in front of
I think he's gonna do little side panels.
the returns.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I could send a picture
Well,
once.
why don't you write on here that the fence will have return panels to that,
Okay,
you can write it on there and initial.
okay,
And what's the height gonna be?
6 feet.
That's a cedar.
And the returns will be how long?
2 feet.
By 3 feet if you're gonna cut a panel in half.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
whatever
draw the, just
Yes.
draw it. So it's-
sides. So.
The main house is relatively new construction, right? Like 70 something.
The main house was 1963, I believe.
Okay, like, my parents live on a Reed Street, so I go by your house every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a lot of work to it.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah.
The house next to Ted's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had put the garage in,
Not
a garage, but
yeah, we used to have a garage where that dwelling sits.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
It'll be in there.
This is the old one.
Looking for the approval sheet. When we vote. They should probably be maintained separately. This is the old one.
Yeah, it's just, so that.
No.
Yeah, this one we do get to it. There we go.
That's it.
HCC
Yeah.
23-06 is closed.
Post on the window and on the fences.
Yeah, it was a bit. I didn't ask.
No, you didn't. Oh, we should, we got panelists. Well, I guess as we go down before we vote, you can, right?
We can't close the public hearing part.
No, that's right. All right, well, let's, I guess, go down the list now. So,
So does anyone have anything to say for or against any of the applications that were presented? Okay, then we'll close the public hearings and move to consideration of public hearings. HGC 23-01 was continued. HGC 23-03, this is 41 Pearl Street. This is the gas vent. Comments?
I think it's unfortunate, sort of what happened, but I'm not sure there was necessarily a solution, so I really don't have an issue with it.
So I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor? John?
So I'm gonna abstain. We're getting too many, what I call oops applications in here where the work's already done. So I'm gonna abstain from every one of them here on out. So I'll abstain from this one. If it's already done before it gets here.
Fair enough.
are we voting?
Yeah.
I vote in favor.
I'll vote in favor.
See, I'm more in. I'm more in the. Yeah, I thought he was gonna move it, if I remember. I thought Peter said he was gonna move it. That's why.
I think he said he was gonna look into it when they file for the major renovations. Like moving it is easier said than done.
Right. No, I realize.
Unless they redo the whole thing, but
It was always my understanding that. He was gonna come back and show that he was moving it, so. I'm gonna abstain.
HTC 23-03 is approved. HTC 23-04. That's for you, sorry.
That was continued.
The sheet you gave me is not the right sheet.
One is continued.
It's this one.
Oh, they're not in there?
You know, you can fill it in and then I can say that later.
I suppose, yeah. I guess I'm getting thrown under the bus a little bit here.
That's okay.
Sorry.
We're a little shorthanded.
HTC 23-05, that was withdrawn, and then we'll
This?
to HTC.
Yeah, that's it. Isn't it?
Yeah, but it's. I mean,
Do I just fill it in?
well,
You can do what you're doing here and then we can.
I can fill in all the other.
Just put it in.
And yes. but
Yeah, you know the numbers.
All right, so we'll move on to HTC 23-06. This is 27 West Mystic Avenue. This is the window change, denser. And the
Motion to approve.
second,
I vote to approve.
not gonna abstain.
I vote
No,
to
it
approve.
wasn't has it already been done? Oh, it is.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm gonna abstain. Thank you.
You're approving?
I'm approving.
I'll approve.
I approve.
HTC 23-06 is approved. Sorry.
No, thank you. You're right. I appreciate it.
So this one is 27 West Mystic.
All right. While you're doing that.
You got some numbers for me, Tom? Certificate numbers?
It says here, the next certificate of appropriate number is 2433.
All right, so this was the first one,
Yeah.
right? 2433.
Yep.
And this one you'll have to finish filling out.
Okay.
That's it. Um, No.
It's this one. This is, Tom, this is the one we just approved, and this is the old one that we
Okay.
previously approved.
Okay, any pre-applications? then?
Anybody on Zoom for application, Tom?
With the new procedure, we don't, if it's not on the agenda, it won't be addressed. So pre-applications moving forward will have to be spoken beforehand and listed on the agenda.
That's actually incorrect. I talked to Tom Hennick. So
We can just.
No, I was told by my bosses
Oh.
and by FOIA that it needs to be addressed.
So I talked to Tom Hennick, who is
You
FOIA.
talk to him after you talk to him.
Okay, I disagree.
And I talked to him after you talked to him. And I talked to my attorneys too, because I was curious.
And I talked to an attorney also.
Coming from John Reiner and John Burt, that if it's a
You can make-
pre-application,
You can make a motion, that's in the FOIA law, you can make a motion to modify the agenda by the panel at the time that you want to discuss it.
you can take public communication,
Take any.
take in and
It takes a
Take-
2/3 vote,
go for it.
and that's, I'm gonna stick to that.
Go ahead.
I can read, I can read it to you.
pre-application?
So,
So you explain it, because this whole thing's a mess.
yeah, so John Burt got is complaint the right word?
Sure.
A complaint, a comment from a certain town councilor accusing us of violating FOIA law or FOIA rules. So I spoke to Tom Hennick and looked up the code.
Tom Hennick is,
He is the FOIA trainer for the state of Connecticut. Looked up the code and spoke to an attorney. So what happens to add something on the agenda? So this is about agenda so that the public has notice is what it boils down to. Freedom of Information Act for transparent government. So if you're the town council, for example, they have their own special rules. So for them to add something to their agenda that's not printed, they have to suspend their rules. And that's what they said we were doing incorrectly. However, we don't have special rules, so we default to Robert's Rules of Order. And Robert's Rules of Order and the FOIA law is clear that we can add whatever we want on the agenda at the time if somebody makes a motion and it passes with a 2/3 vote. So on this, what Tom's saying, I was taking direction from his boss, we can't have pre-applications.
You can't have anything.
You can't have anything, which would basically shut this commission down. So I'm gonna go on the record and say we all took an oath to take care of our community. And if somebody wants to play games, they're welcome to play games. I'm not participating. The law is the law, we're gonna follow the law, and that's it. And we have training coming from FOIA and the SHPA, and they'll agree with us 100%. So that's my position
Right.
on the record.
I was told differently
Let
after.
me just read it, let me read it to you. Section 1-225 of the FOIA law. Section C. Upon the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members of a public agency present and voting, any subsequent business not included in such filed agendas may be considered and acted upon at such meetings.
No, say that again, the middle part.
Read the whole thing again.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they can't be here.
No, that's public communication. They can be here for public
We
communication.
can't discuss it. We just-
You can't discuss it.
We
If
just-
you want to discuss it, you have to put it on the next
Right.
agenda.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
Upon the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members of a public agency present and voting, 2/3 present voting. Any subsequent business not included in such filed agendas, anything else that's not included in the filed agenda may be considered and acted upon at such meetings. That's from the law.
All right, I'll let you take it. You're the chair. So go.
And what I would say, if somebody's got a problem with what I do, they're more than willing to file a complaint against me in the FOIA commission. We can adjudicate it there and not drag our residents into this silliness.
And the frustrating part about it is, he talked to him, and got one set of information. John Burt went and talked to him, got a different set of information.
Correct.
Then I wasted my time during my busy day to talk to him and got a different set of information that more was in line with what he said. Then I went back and spent close to an hour on the phone with John Burt going over all of this. Then, because I just wanted to double check it, I wasted $725 of my own money on my attorneys to get the same answer that Tom Hennick told me and told him that you guys, for whatever reason, the town just didn't agree with.
And I can show you the check. I spent $500 of my own money talking to. a
No, I
different
wasn't,
attorney.
anything after.
Otherwise,
John talked to her, John.
could come in here and say a word. They can come in and speak, and I have to just sit here and get the view and just listen to them.
No, a pre-application, what we were going.
No, but I'm saying these people who came here tonight to work on something, to come up with a solution, to figure out an answer. And I have to sit here and just stare at them.
If you're coming to a solution on a project that's existing, yeah, you shouldn't be able to discuss that if it's not on the agenda.
Upon the affirmative.
Because nobody else
of
knows
two-
they're gonna discuss it.
Who cares? Upon the affirmative vote of 2/3, I didn't write the FOIA law.
And FOIA is for open and transparent government. It's not to weaponize one. Because one board's got a problem with something, another board to use as a bat and drag the residents into what's becoming basically a middle school fight.
Forget even that, though. This is the law. Someone wrote this. The state legislature wrote it and approved it. This is from the state's website.
I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll have more discussions on it past tonight, so you can take it up with whomever. I'm not a decision maker. I'm just telling you what I was told, and that's all I'm here for, so.
Okay, we understand, Tom. It's not directed at you.
Ridiculous.
So any pre-applications?
On the phone.
No hands are up.
So we'll move on to public communications, and then if we want to take it up, we can take a vote on it.
Yes.
Like, come on.
Is this time for the public?
Public communications,
Okay. Well,
but we can't say anything to you
Okay.
until. we-
Unless one of us make a motion, then we,
all right.
and we
then
get
we
a
can
two-thirds
take it.
vote, then we can.
Well, this is probably going to sound very familiar, parts of it, because you've already heard this before, but I don't know if you're not using your.
If you drop it all the way down, I can turn on the overhead.
Flip it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't.
It'll.
It's purple. Is it off or on?
Am I not in there?
A second for the camera to come on.
Gotcha.
Go.
Okay, so there's that.
We're good at this now.
No.
All right. Right, okay, so I'm Ruth Crocker. I live at 28 Pearl Street, next to a property which has built a fence, which I'm finding very offensive, but unfortunately, I wasn't here last year when, I mean, we had a lot of family medical emergencies, so I wasn't here at the hearing when it was approved, as most of you know, and didn't respond within that 2-week window. So you approved a 6-foot stockade fence. And I happen to have a 4-foot picket fence, which now it is overpowering all along the 65 feet of my eastern boundary. And it's visible from Pearl Street. And in my case, the commission approved this fence without any photos of the area, of the impact on the surrounding properties or the impact on the streetscape from Pearl Street. So I've been around here for a long time. I grew up in Old Mystic and I've been on many boards. I don't think I've ever seen such a capricious board as this, but anyway. I learned this week also my house is contributing property to both the Mystic River Historic District and the Mystic River Local Historic District. It's also listed in the State Register of Historic Places. And I work hard to maintain it inside and out. And the yard, which is visible from all of my south and east windows of my house, as well as from Pearl Street, is not my yard anymore. This is the way it was before. Was the way my yard looked, or the way the fence looked on the eastern boundary. Now the entire east side is cordoned off by a massive 6-foot high fence, which is actually 7 feet on my boundary, and it's even higher going down to Gravel Street. Now my yard kind of looks and feels like a prison exercise yard. And even the air and the sound is different back there. And in the summer, I'm sure there's going to be no breeze from the river, and I'm sure it will create a heat sink. I'm really devastated and overwhelmed by the changes in the character and feeling created by this massive fence. And I can't accept this overwhelming structure. It also seems to be an odd precedent for the area mystic, but I was told at the last meeting that there is no such thing as precedents. The guidelines in the Historic District Commission handbook say that the goal of the commission is to preserve existing fences and the historic integrity of the streetscape. And is this massive stockade fence consistent with that? I don't think so. So just a little bit about the fence builders at 21 Gravel Street. I don't know them. They live in Worcester most of the time. I sent them a message when I realized the fence was being built. And I never received the courtesy of a response. They're in their late 60s, so that's probably why they haven't invited me to any of their noisy parties. And also, they can behave like bullies. They have had boundary disputes with all the other neighbors around, and verbal disputes with another neighbor about the noise and the fire pit smoke, because she rents her house out as an Airbnb to large groups. And so one of your members told me at the last meeting that I should go back and look at the other hearings, and I did. And it turns out that at that hearing on June 21st, it was turned down, and the chairperson said that there were no photos of the surrounding area. I guess also it was a plastic fence that they were proposing. So when it came back on July 19th, there were still no photos, but the fence was approved. And okay, well, I think I've gone on far enough here. I also didn't appreciate the fact that in that hearing, I saw the architect who presented it waved his hand over the surrounding properties and pointed out my house and said this was the offending Airbnb. So I am very, very upset. I'll show you a couple more pictures of the impact of the fence. This is what my yard looks like now. And this is the view from Pearl Street. Further away, and this is what it looks like when you look from Pearl Street out to the yard. So no, you can't say anything to me, but I just wanted to and I want to thank all the supporters I've had both here last time and on Zoom. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Or do I ask for that, or do
Chairman.
you ask for that, or?
I guess, is there any more public communications?
Someone has their hand up.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, we can.
Great. My name's Chris Palmer. I'm an attorney. I represent Mrs. Crocker. I should also add that I'm intimately familiar with this neighborhood as I grew up at 32 Pearl Street. So I think it's apparent to me that I know this neighborhood a little bit better than the Historic District Commission. This stems from an application, as Mrs. Crocker rightly noted. The original application was turned down on June 21st of 2022 because it was a vinyl fence that they proposed. Also because the chairperson noted that no photos were submitted with that application. It was therefore incomplete. The present application that was acted on, 22-41, was submitted the very next day, June 22nd. The second page of that application, which I have a copy of, states information required to be submitted with the application are photographs showing all facades of buildings, plot plan showing property location. It is apparent that with this application, if I do have a complete copy, that there were still no photos provided. And at that hearing on July 19th, the architect, Mr. Camo, made a material misrepresentation in his presentation, indicating that Mrs. Crocker's property was the offended Airbnb. This issue was addressed subsequently at the last meeting, February 7th, where the board members to a person admitted that none personally visited the site in question, nor were there any photos of the streetscape provided with the application. Page 1, I-10 of your own handbook indicates that incomplete applications shall be denied. And your handbook on page I-6 indicates that supporting materials must, in large bold letters, must be submitted. As a minimum, the supporting materials are required with the submission of a completed application. And if you go to the next page of the handbook, the first two items are photographs showing streetscape and the surrounding area. It would appear that this commission acted not just capriciously, but arbitrarily in granting this application. Page II-40 of your own handbook indicates that new fences should follow local traditions and cites simple picket fences as the standard for this Victorian era sort of housing. What the result of the board's decision is that there is now a fence on a fence. One is an old style picket fence and one is a fence that is built well over the approved height of 6 feet. It appears by all sensibility not just to be a barricade fence, which is particularly discouraged by your handbook. This is a spite fence, let's be clear. It faces the wrong way, as somebody at one of your previous meetings indicated. The business side of the fence is facing the wrong way. Generally, the refined or finished part of the fence faces outward from a property. This does not. This is meant to block. And if you're looking at tradition, you should look in a historical area that the way houses were built back in the day were intended to take advantage of the river breezes during the summer months. And my client rightfully noted that this fence blocks sound and it blocks air. So again, the commission in approving this didn't stick with tradition. This is not a fence that follows tradition. It is a fence that defies tradition. So I would ask the board, if I may candidly, what procedure you have for addressing matters that were approved based on incomplete applications that should have been denied, and applications that, at least in the hearing sense, that were misrepresented to the board, or the commission rather. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
So I will make a motion to add this to new business.
I second it.
Discuss it. All in favor?
Aye.
So just for quick,
I would hear all the comments.
are there more?
I'm assuming that all those.
Maybe not. Any other hands?
Anybody
up there?
else want to speak?
That's the only hand, was Chris Palmer. That's it.
That's it.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, did you shake your head? You want to speak, ma'am? Or no? Okay, all right.
I'm just listening intently. If you're not used to that,
Oh,
I apologize.
no, we are. I thought I saw you nod your head.
We just
that's why
didn't
I
want
asked.
you to be like, have the.
You're not ignoring me. Thank you.
Okay.
So just for ease of discussion, I guess we'll skip old business and policy change discussion and just push that till after new business so we can discuss this.
Yeah, I agree. May I ask you a question, Tom?
Yeah.
The fence is over 6 feet, which was approved, correct?
I haven't measured it yet. I
Okay.
haven't been called to measure it. I've been in communication with the owner and told them straight up, it needs to be 6 feet. Otherwise, it will have to be adjusted before I come out.
Okay, so that's gonna be my next question. If it's not 6 feet, then what's,
They'll have to adjust it to
It's
6 feet.
6 feet. The fence is 6 feet. The fence is 6 feet off the ground.
Again, I haven't gone out, so I'm not sure. I just told them that it needs to be
No,
measured 6 feet from natural grade.
from natural grade? Okay.
Yeah.
So they can't grade it to make it 6 feet.
It would be an unnatural grade and it would be obvious if it were built up. So no, it would have to be down. There was some, they said there was some erosion that happened there. And I said, if you put anything there, it should compact it down to make it be, flush with the existing grade. So it's not artificially built up.
And I just don't know, so I'm asking these questions. What will trigger you to go out and look at this when they call and say it's ready?
When they call and say it's ready, yeah.
This is what the fence looks like now, off the ground.
Right.
And they built a berm to bring it through.
Second.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll go look at it eventually.
So, Mr. Palmer,
Sorry, I muted him.
Yes.
do you want to take your questions one by one, or do you want me to try to?
Well, I don't mind how you take the questions. I think that some of my questions it relates to the due diligence one expects from the commission in the sense that your handbook says if an application is insufficiently complete to ensure a property termination, the commission will have no recourse but to deny the application. And in this sense, not only were there no photos submitted in the last meeting on February 7th, I believe it was, that nobody on the board admitted to having visited the site or seen things as they were. Nobody knew there was an existing picket fence there. What is the level of due diligence that you take upon yourselves to ensure that the applications you're brought are truthful and complete?
So I'll speak. And then I'll let everyone else speak, but to answer this question, so I was at the original hearing. In which I was adamantly opposed to the vinyl aspect of the fence. Once it was determined that it was not going to be approved based upon the vinyl piece, I didn't go any further because I didn't care. But as you said, being intimately knowledgeable with that street, I too have lived here 37 years. And have lived downtown for almost all of that. So I probably know every piece of that area as I spent a lot of time walking, riding my bike and being there. Not to mention when I built the building, I was downtown every day for a year, so I didn't really go anywhere. So that being said, the required materials are not a condition precedent for a vote. If the commission, just like a judge or just like any other commission, chooses to waive their rights to that material and vote on it, it doesn't invalidate the vote. Now, I wasn't here for the second vote. And as you may or may not be aware, I'm pretty strongly opposed to moving forward on applications without all supporting material. That being said, I was not there for that vote, so I can't answer why they didn't request the additional information.
Understood. It did seem like a lot of commission members at the February 7th hearing admitting to, quote, making mistakes in this
No.
approval.
I was very clear in my comments at that meeting. The mistake, in my opinion, was the mistake that the commission made by not requesting the additional information.
Correct.
That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that the vote was invalid or the vote should be overturned.
No, I don't say it was invalid. Unfortunately, it stands. I say it was arbitrary and capricious. It was a judgment rendered without sufficient information, contrary to the requirements of page 10 of your handbook.
But how do you know that? How do you know that the other commission, and again, I didn't vote, but how do you know that the other commission members, such as Mr. Ferguson here, who keeps his boat across the street, isn't intimately aware or of the surroundings of that parcel?
I watched the meeting. People seemed genuinely surprised that this fence was built on top of another fence right next to it. They
Mr.
seemed
Ferguson wasn't
genuine.
at the last meeting.
But I'm just saying, Mr. Ferguson, who voted on the fence the original time, was not at the last meeting where I was the one that was surprised. Because I didn't see anything. I never paid attention to the results of that meeting because I wasn't at that meeting. I was personally surprised.
Mhm.
More so than anyone else. And like I said, and I've said over and over again, that we should be sticklers to requiring supporting information, but the fact that the supporting information isn't included doesn't negate the vote.
No, that was never the contention brought before this commission. The sad truth is the vote was taken, it was approved, and the vote stands. My question was, what recourse does the board have to deal with applications that decisions were made on that included material representations of fact in the presentation to the board by the architect?
Well, we have the ability to find the architect or to request that. How is it phrased?
I actually looked that up. I have it on my phone.
As John looks for, we have some ability to ask either the town attorney to find the architect or to hold the architect in some.
Right.
Just as you would in court, if you went and made a material misrepresentation to a judge, you
so
could be
it's-
found in contempt or.
So section 7-147H of the Connecticut General Statute stipulates that Superior Court may impose a fine of not less than $10 nor more than $100 for each day that a violation of an Historic District Commission regulation or ruling continues. If violation is found to be willful, a fine of not less than 100, no more than $250 for each continued day. Moreover, all legal costs, fees, expenses, as well as attorney's fees incurred in conjunction with actions taken against a violator may be assessed against the violator. After payment of such expenses, any funds collected as fine shall be used for the restoration of the affected property.
But that would be a violation.
Right, liable parties, here it is. Property owner, leaseholder, tenant, architect, engineer, builder, contractor, agent of any of the above.
The question would still become though, is that would the commission have voted to approve this fence even if the photos were submitted?
Right, or if my client's house wasn't erroneously identified as an offending Airbnb,
But how do you?
which was
how do you-
the reason for the fence.
But how do you re-argue it? I mean, I'm asking not facetiously, I'm asking you seriously, like, what are you suggesting we do?
Well, it appears to me that the immediate remedy would be to have the town go out and measure the fence and take it down to the approved level. And my understanding is that the fence was not built starting from ground grade. It was built about 6 or 8 inches above that. And then from there you go up 6 feet. So the fence is around 7 feet on average high. I think the immediate remedy is to lop a top foot off that fence.
To
But
be in
I-
compliance with the approval.
To be in compliance
Okay.
with the approval, which must stand because the appeal period has passed. I'm mindful of the way the procedure works. But I would like to again point out that I think the approval process failed to live up to the board's own handbook and guidelines.
And I personally don't disagree with you on that aspect of it. I just unfortunately, I look at it like a court case where someone was not paying attention, a judge, and you can't, unless you're going to appeal it within your appeal rights, there's nothing that can be done about it. Otherwise, you would invalidate every single decision from the HDC that ever didn't include some piece of document.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There is no recourse before your commission at this point.
But if the architect or the presenter made a material misrepresentation with an intent to defraud or something along those lines, I mean, should the commission be, a letter, a censure or something? I mean, is that what you're suggesting?
I'm not suggesting that because I don't know what your commission's procedures allow for. That would be a question for your town attorney. I'm just bringing the fact to your attention if it wasn't already apparent to you before.
I mean, do you have any recourse against the presenter?
I personally?
No. You represent your client.
Right. Well, I know there's statutory provisions in case law which support suits against individual commission members in dereliction of their duty or for land use malfeasance. I'm not, particularly aware of what we would do against an architect which presents an application before your commission. I would think that would be more of a housekeeping item for you.
Well, I'm just asking because you made a strong point to say that it was a material misrepresentation by the architect. And I was just curious.
It was clearly his reasoning for needing a fence there. It was the loud, boisterous activity of this Airbnb located immediately to the rear of the applicant's property, which happens to be my client's property, which has never been run as an Airbnb. So it was apparent to me that he was leaning the commission towards that as a reason for approving this fence. I would call that a material misrepresentation of fact before your organization.
And I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with you. I'm just asking for clarity of what you're suggesting. That's all.
Now, I was just wondering if really my original question was, does your commission have a vehicle or a mechanism for dealing with applications that are later determined to have been, for want of a better word, fraudulent?
And it appears to be no.
Okay. Fair answer.
Fortunately, for some scenarios and unfortunate for others.
Understood.
But I do question if this would have been approved, even if the information had been presented. While it's slightly irrelevant, I'm just not sure that with our history and with the amount of fences that are 6 feet between properties throughout the historic district, including between Pearl and Gravel Street, I'm not sure it's so out of character that it would have been, denied. Though I do agree with you that it needs to be.
Is it true? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
I just, your guidebook, your handbook talks about following local traditions with fences, and I'm not aware of a tradition of building one fence within inches of another fence that already exists. Again, or blocking those breezes that serve the interior streets of our town as we get away from the river.
So
your charge is to uphold tradition in the town, but this seems, as I said, it doesn't follow tradition. This decision ultimately defies tradition.
Well, I just want to ask the question then. So are you saying that because there was a fence already there that no neighbor, in any scenario that there's a fence already located, you're saying that we should never vote to approve a fence that's going to be abutting to that existing
No,
fence? So it's-
I'm not trying to set your policy, but I'm noting that that was mentioned at your February 7th hearing in line with the mistakes that were made. People on your commission were clearly surprised that there was already a picket fence there. If the due
And-
diligence had been done and supporting information brought along with
And
the
I-
application, you would have been aware of that.
And I agree with you on that because I was surprised that that was not taken into consideration or allowed. But that being said, I personally don't feel necessarily that just because I put my fence there first doesn't mean that my neighbor can't put a fence up next to it.
I'm
just-
not here to set town policy on the proximity of fences. I'm
but
here
I
I'm here just to comment on the procedure by which this application was read and approved.
But you made the comment also that it was out of character for the district as a whole.
Hmm.
And
Well,
it appears to me that it's not out of character. I mean, can you see this?
No.
Are you on a phone?
I don't, I know, I don't.
Are you on a phone or are you on a computer?
I'm on a computer. I see the board, but that's
Want me
the
to do that?
commission rather, but that's it. I don't see any photos or anything.
Up to an overhead camera.
This
Yeah,
isn't so
okay.
much particularly directed, it's just to answer.
I think, as long as you have your hand up, you're gonna be dominating the screen.
I can see now.
Can you just take it? Well, whatever.
So put the.
So this is the fence. Zoom in.
Yeah.
That's fine. So this is the fence that was erected behind the parking lot across from Harp and Hound, which is the 6-foot solid fence.
Mhm.
This is the fence that was erected behind Harp and Hound between them and Grover Insurance, which is a 6-foot fence.
Move that over a little to your upper right, that way, yeah, there you go.
This is the fence directly to the left of that between the house, which has an illegal fence in the front, which we've been dealing with. But the rear one apparently was approved prior to me being on this commission, and that's a 6-foot fence.
Mhm.
You move to the next house between Gravel Street and Pearl Street behind the old Mason's Hall, and there's a 6-foot fence.
Right.
Move
I
a couple
never,
houses down, there's a 6-foot fence between those two houses. Move a few houses down, there's another 6-foot fence between the two places.
right. I
Move
never
down
said
to-
it. I never said a 6-foot fence was not in keeping with local traditions.
You did. You did.
No, I said a fence built within inches of another fence shows that, and the fact that the commission members were to a person surprised by that fact in February, a week ago. That I
yeah.
said lends itself
I-
to arbitrary and capricious.
I was surprised. I did not vote because I was not here. But here's another fence at the I don't remember the name of the home, but up there that has two fences right next to each other.
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, I can go all the way down. Only because I
Again,
was
I'm
curious.
not trying to address what you do elsewhere in the town. I'm going to the fact that there was no supporting documentation, nor were there any site visits by any of the commissioners to see this situation firsthand. And it seems like if it didn't violate the letter of your handbook, it certainly violated the spirit of your handbook. That the commission should at all times and in all decisions be as prepared as possible for the character to keep the character and integrity of your various neighborhoods in town.
But again, I just want to say one last thing. The only person that said that they didn't visit the site was John.
Right. No, and Mr. Palmer, hear me out when we say this, it's not a requirement for us to visit the sites.
Mhm.
I actually make it an effort to every time we get an agenda packet, and I do it about 70% of the time. I did not this time, so it's not a requirement, but I still try and do that in fairness to
No,
everybody. But yes, I'm the only one who admitted I did not visit the site.
It is,
That I
it is
remember.
not a requirement because explicitly photographs are required. It's in your handbook in large letters. They must be submitted. the second page of this application that Mr. Camo submitted on behalf of the Carroll family. The second page of that says, in order to receive a certificate of appropriateness, this information is required to be submitted, not if you feel like it, not if we choose to look at it or not, it shall be required. And it was not submitted. So I'm back to saying this was an incomplete application. And in keeping with page I-10 of your handbook, if it's insufficient to make a property determination, the board or the commission should have rejected that and asked for a resubmission of an application.
Except it appears that the commission members who were here and voted on it were aware enough of the neighborhood to make the decision.
They felt
Whether
they
or not
were.
Correct.
They felt they
Yeah,
were.
I think,
The reason why I'm just diving in depth into this so much is because there's been a litany of calls, emails, comments, everything on both sides of this. So I'm just trying to flush out any further questions of the agenda or motive of the commission or anything that the commission did regarding what people's personal opinions are. That's not anything for me to be worried about.
right, but I also think, Mr. Palmer, that one of the points that's being made here is that regardless of some of the insufficiencies that you've discussed, and I don't think that any of us necessarily disagree with that, is that there are innumerable 6-foot fences in this neighborhood, and many of them between these very properties on Gravel and Pearl Street. And so the point is that I'm not sure, I don't think that the fence would not have been approved anyway, regardless. And I also don't think that the vote was premised upon the presence or not of an Airbnb. In other words, if someone wants to put up a fence, they don't need to have an Airbnb next door in order to justify it. And that a lot of the other 6-foot fences that have been approved in the neighborhood had nothing to do with Airbnbs or anything. They had to do with
Correct.
the owner's desire to erect a 6-foot fence and the commission's approval of same and feeling that it was not inappropriate in the community. So, as I said, and I took another drive down Pearl Street today and Gravel Street and looked and there's fences everywhere. There are side yard fences, there are rear yard fences, an abundance of them.
Yep.
So
I'm not here to speak against fences as a rule. I think this one should be kept to the maximum of 6 feet from standard grade of the ground, which apparently right now it is not. It's not built in conformity to the approved application. No, I'm not anti-fence. I don't want to go down in history as that attorney who hates all fences. But I do think that your commission dropped the ball on this one.
okay, and I think that, we did say to Ms. Crockett at the last meeting that if the fence was not in compliance with what had been approved, that that should be addressed.
Now, I'll just be clear too. I was particularly bothered at the last meeting, more so about the fact that the neighbor never approached her about putting up the fence. I mean, I think that, as again, 37, almost 38-year resident of this town, like I personally would not put, and I said this last time, would not put a fence up without contacting or discussing it with my neighbor. I just don't think that that's right. I don't think that's a good community. And I thought that was wrong. And I was very clear about it. So that's what I was upset about in combination with some of the other aspects. But as far as like rehearing it, I think we're stuck.
So I'm living with this fence. That's what you're saying. I'm gonna live with this fence for as long as I'm living at that property.
I don't think there's a choice.
Oh, no?
No. Your own attorney has told you there's not a choice.
As long as it meets the 6-foot. What it says in the application.
I can't make something up that isn't in the handbook. I spent significant amount of time.
Yeah, I think I'll have my house reassessed. I can't take any more of this. I'm done. Okay. Maybe we'll be back, but I can't take any more anymore. It's taking up all my time and I have other things to do. And I am sick and tired of it and you.
Mr. Palmer, do you have anything else?
Nothing further at this time. Thank you.
Does anyone else?
Yes, but I shouldn't say what I'm going to say. So, thank you.
Okay. Any old business?
Nothing listed.
Oh, old business, we're gonna talk about the noticing requirement, aren't we? Is that on there?
That's new business policy
new
change
business.
discussion.
Yes, okay.
Just to get back to the whole FOIA thing though, if you just put old business, new business, what's the point of putting old business, new business, something under old business or new business?
Yeah, they're kind of placeholders. We always have it in the order, and then if there is something, then you put
There
it under
can't,
it as well.
according to you, there couldn't be anything.
I'm sorry.
According to you, there can't be anything unless it's specifically delineated.
It's just, we don't delete anything for, it's the way we do agendas.
No,
It's a formatting.
I'm just saying.
It's formatting. Yeah, we just.
On there.
I
Under
understand.
his theory, we can't
understand
discuss
both.
anything.
I
Because you
understand
just keep
both.
systems down like that. You don't, you would, like in a special meeting, you would delete that because it's nothing there, but in a regular meeting, you just keep the placeholder.
So, okay.
Did we just
Policy
did
change.
public,
Public communications, new business, old business, or jumping on
we're
to
jumping, okay,
that.
I'm sorry.
Policy change discussion. Your policy, you want to run with it?
Yeah, so I brought up at the last meeting, I wrote something out, which hopefully you guys have. I would like to add a new rule that starting we have all applications notice all the abutters of the application. The application has to have a certified return receipt, so we know that they got it. I think it's gonna prevent issues like this and other issues we've been dealing with if all the neighbors have the ability to come to the hearing and speak in favor or against. Right now, the policy is to publish it in the newspaper. I think it's a very archaic requirement, so I subscribe to the day, but I don't get the paper, I get the digital copy, and you don't get the notice in the digital copy.
No, they're buried there. You have to search for them.
Okay, so, I get the digital, there's certain things I do, national news, local news, a couple columnists I like to read, that's it. So I think it's unfair to the neighbors, and I think if we have that requirement moving forward, it will stop things like this, like the London Road, like a lot of the issues that we've had coming
So
up.
here's my question though. Why does the neighbor have a right to give input? Why does a neighbor have to have the right to give input for something having to do with property that isn't theirs?
It's a public hearing.
So,
They should have notice of the public hearing.
so you're saying that the newspaper is not sufficient notice in today's day and age?
I completely believe it's not. So I'm just gonna ask the question, how many of you here read the print edition of the day?
No, I agree with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do every day. I'll be right. I do
Okay.
I mean.
Public notices.
Can I have your old ones for my fireplace when you're done?
I used to start my wood.
When you talk about abutters, how do you define abutters?
So what I originally wrote in my original referral was all the abutters of the property, so everybody that shares a property line. I also thought the people across the street in that same sort of cross-section should be notified.
It just would be a time requirement that would push things out. It would be extensive notice. I'm not necessarily opposed to letting people know because I do think the newspaper thing is kind of not critical anymore, but I'm also opposed to handing an opportunity that if they want to pay attention, they should pay attention. So my only question would be instead of requiring it to be part of the application, why not just, because the other thing is if you send out certified mail return receipt, now you don't even have to sign for it because of COVID.
Right.
So that doesn't do a lot of good right now.
So I've checked other municipalities. Some of them actually, the town sends it out, but I think we brought that up before and I've told we don't have the budget for that.
The town does not send out the notices.
Not this town, other towns do.
Okay,
Yeah.
for other public hearings, ZBA and special meetings, we provide a list and the owner
The
has to
applicants.
corroborate with it, the applicant. And then that goes to abutters within 150 feet. It does, by state statute, it does not have to be return receipt.
Right, because what if it isn't returned?
Exactly.
Yes,
It's not their
cert-
responsibility that
it's
someone
just
picked it up. It just has to,
Certified.
certified mail, but not returned.
That's not for
For demo,
standard.
yeah, for demo. It
So
doesn't matter what
if-
demo.
If that already exists in the town, then for, you're saying,
Because it's state statute.
so,
State statute requires that for ZBA and for PZC special meetings.
so why can't we just carbon copy that onto our application process?
We're following right now the state statute for HTC applications, which is only a notice in the paper. It's also different. HTC is a little different where it's only a 65-day notice to complete the application, where the other applications for public hearing have 65 days to open the public hearing, 35 days to complete the public hearing, 65 days to make a decision. So you're not under the same, it's just a little bit different for HTC.
Right, but what I'm saying is rather than us reinventing the wheel, can't we carbon copy that language and just make it a application requirement that, what would you say it is 150?
150 feet.
All right,
But can you imagine if they sent out a certified letter to someone because they want to put that vent on the side of the building? No, I know, I just,
I just think it's the right thing to do for the residents. It's gonna prevent.
But
these
it's gonna
issues.
prevent the argument that I didn't know about it. But those are more rare than. more-
I don't know, we've had at least 3 of them in the past year. That's about almost not quite once a quarter. So I don't know how rare it really is.
Well, I can speak, from having been on the commission for a while, that it has come up recently, but it has not come up in the prior 8 or 9 years from anybody. So I understand, and I could argue both sides of this, but, gosh, I just hate to see the imposition of more and more bureaucratic measures that have to be taking place. I mean, especially with this whole issue now about, pre-application hearings. I mean, how much time are we going to add to the entire process of someone who wants to appear before the Historic District Commission to make a change to their house? I mean, I think that those time considerations have to at least be taken into account.
Why-
How complex the process gets, especially as Eric says, if it's some minor little application or something, you're going to make someone go through a lot of work.
How much time are we talking about to mail out 5 letters?
I just,
Well,
want-
someone's got to put together who the, you got to find out who the abutters are.
well, the owner's gotta do that, but then the problem is that they're not gonna check it.
Well, but right now, the way it works though is, well, they may not check it. Well, right, the way it works now though is the town provides you, here are the people you have to send these to.
No.
We do a list, but we're not held by that list. The owner or applicant is,
But do you-
they have to verify.
Do you even check afterwards?
At the public hearing, the secretary of the commissioner board checks it, make sure it's all in order. We check it and then they do it officially and check it at the meeting.
Right, but how are they checking? They going to the land records?
We have the assessor's list of the abutters, 150 feet that they supply, and you just check off from the certified mailing list.
I mean, I can tell you when I got my list for the last thing I did, there were all kinds of inaccuracies on the list.
Well, I oversent mine out for the demolition of Water Street and that no one said anything, but what does it matter? I just.
Yeah. I think demolition is a different standard again, because it doesn't, I'm assuming, I don't know, I don't do a lot of them.
It's any abutter except for across the street, any property it directly abuts.
And I'm all for progressing things forward. I'm gonna use 2 examples. I mean, one personal, one 10,000-foot view. Some of these buildings have stood for 200 years, 150 years. An extra 2 weeks isn't gonna kill anybody.
Well,
And I'm restoring my 1745 house. I've been doing it for 3 years. I've probably got another 10 left before it's done. So things take time. And I think in the interest of calming down situations that we're seeing pop up, I think it's the right thing for the community. And I think that's what we're ultimately here for, is to do the right thing for the community.
Let's just step back to one thing though. On the pre-application piece, I think that it's not a bad idea to have people send an email and I'm coming in for a pre-app. Let it get added to the agenda, whatever. If they come in though, just because they walk in or whatever, then again, contrary to what you believe, we're just gonna vote on it.
Right.
Listen to it, because what does it matter?
Right. I agree.
So that's fine. But on this other piece, I just, it's your property, it's your right. And if the person doesn't want to pay attention, having to notify everyone for some of this stuff is, I'm gonna replace 2 windows, you gotta notify all your neighbors. It's tough. I'm gonna tear my house down or demo the house. Oh, totally agree. But it's like, how do you set a standard of what is like a level A and a level B? I don't know.
Well, and that's why I think it should be done verbally, because you're right. Because now if we start trying to split the baby, who's going to adjudicate at what that level be cutoff is? That's why I think it's just easier to do it on everything.
What about just requiring them to send it out on approval.
Yeah, but then state statute is gonna say 15 days. So let's say you get it on a Tuesday. Let's use Thanksgiving as an example, right? So you're here Tuesday,
You're saying by the time they get it, they can't appeal it anyway.
they can't appeal it anyways.
Yeah, but who the hell can put an appeal together in 15 days? You can't. Unless you got big bucks.
I'd like to, because I'm all about splitting babies.
I know you are, Solomon.
So I am Solomon. I love the concept and I'm supportive of the concept. I just don't think in putting it into motion is, to Todd's point, it's just another layer of bureaucracy. I would like to make it as part of our pre-app. I'll to piggyback your idea, as part of our pre-app, it is a question we send to the person presenting. Have you contacted? We would strongly encourage you to contact your neighbors about this. We can't mandate it, but we can encourage them and have on record that we have off. We have-
Other towns do have it mandated as part of the other HGCs,
Right.
and so.
No, I'm just saying, it's not a Connecticut statute
Right.
for us to do so, but we as a community, neighborhood member I think it should be part of our checklist when they come up before us at a pre-app, that we say, this might have an impact on your neighbors and we would strongly encourage you to reach out. And if they do, they do, because I mean, I'll bring up a story. My neighbor has two big dogs. They built a more than 6-foot fence next to it. And if that was the case, in other situations, no one can tell them, no, you can't build a 6-foot fence because it's impacting me. They have big dogs. That's why they built that 6-foot fence, to keep those dogs in. So I'm just saying that they came to me and told me they were building a fence. That didn't happen in this particular situation, but my point is, it's their prerogative on their property to build 6-foot fence if it's approved by the commission. And so I feel that the right thing to do is reach out to your neighbors and be good neighbors, but I don't know if we can mandate it, but we can strongly encourage it, is my opinion.
So let me just counter that with a second thought, which is fairness to both parties. So our COA is good for 5 years, right? So if I get one on my house, in the historic district, I have 5 years to actually act on it. You as my neighbor, if you don't come to the meeting to speak for or against it, have 15 days. So I wait for 4 years, 350 days and start construction. It's not equitable to the other people that may be affected that could have spoke for or against it. And I'm just saying, let's give the public a opportunity to speak for or against it. Yeah, I don't want to call any particular situation out because I don't want to be unfair to anybody, but had any situation that come back, even if we're doing like, let's say missing steps, had that been noticed, hey, I'm going to remove these steps.
What if we just maybe make it clearer from the town as to like what's on the agenda? So if the town somehow circulated something or whatever, or we figured out a way to blast it out there, or we read a statement in the beginning of every meeting that just said all agendas are online 4 days beforehand. I don't, do you have to tell the person? Like, do you have to like? I just always wonder, like, I'm looking at it from like my point of view, where sometimes people are just obstructionists, and do you have to like go out there and like really tell everyone what you're doing? Like, is it their decision to tell me what I can do, or is it my decision to do it and apply for it? And if we approve it, we approve it.
Well, I think that's where then it comes back as us as commissioners. I mean, some of these cases that come before us, neighbors on both sides have contacted me. Hey, I support X, Y, and Z, and B, I don't.
I think it's different because I think it's difficult to do, because I'm running with all these scenarios in my head of like Gary coming to put the little pipe this big on the top. I mean, what are you gonna tell Pizzetta? You're gonna tell me? I gotta tell the condo owners? Like, that's crazy. But then I see stuff like, like this scenario or another scenario, or someone building a big barn like right next to someone. Like
Right.
But again, I mean, does it
Or
matter?
people getting approvals and putting air conditioning units and the neighbors coming up to us. I mean,
Well, that's tough because that's becoming a problem.
right,
Everyone's sticking them in places that are just obnoxious to the neighbor. I do want to add two things to talking about after this. We'll have to vote,
right.
add it, and then we can talk about it.
Can I add one more suggestion?
We have to vote.
I mean, just as,
Oh, is it-
to the policy.
It's not a new thing?
No,
Talking about the-
it's discussing on what we already
Will-
voted.
So, and I also, the zoning official for Stonington Borough, and before anything that's on the planning and zoning or ZBA agenda, we have little yellow notice posters or as big as a paper. And they have to be placed in the ground, placed visible, readable from the public way. Just announcing public hearing, this date. If we write it in Sharpie, we give it to them, put it up.
See,
And then you
now
can-
I like that.
I like that.
If you pay attention, you pay attention. It's there.
I,
I like.
I think that's a great idea. So now it's not gonna take any more time.
I keep a stack of them in the borough. Whenever I get an application, the person's there, I write it right out. I give it to them.
They stick it on their front lawn then?
Stick it on their front lawn, attach it to a fence, wherever it can be visible. They take a picture of it, make sure so we can see where
It's
it
like a
is.
small version of the liquor application.
Exactly. It's yellow, it's laminated. I write on it in Sharpie so you can't erase it.
So can I ask a dumb question? Do we have to wait till budget season to get the budgeted to be?
I don't think so. Probably not, because we can do,
I mean, if not, I'll donate some money. I sponsor some.
No, I mean,
100 at a time, I'm sure we can.
Town council has to approve your donation.
Not if it's under a certain dollar amount.
no, I think that's, I thank you for sharing that because I think that is a great,
It's less burden on the applicant.
yeah.
I think so.
Also visible for 150, you know.
As a person who made the referral, I think that's a great,
I can bring in a copy that we have in the borough and show it to you.
yeah, I think that's a great.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Tom.
Go from there.
It's because it's easy to implement. In fact, people may see a yellow sign like that more readily than they'll open their stinking mail. When it comes.
And if you're 2 houses down, you didn't get why didn't I get a letter coming right next door?
Right.
That's great, yeah.
And how long are they required to post it? A week, 2 weeks?
5 years.
We have it up,
I like that. We're gonna do 5 years. Good thing for Todd.
For us,
Have to get
it's-
HTC approval for the sign.
That's right.
for the hearings, it's,
And a sign
15 days prior, and then keep it up 15 days post. After the,
From the date of,
15 days prior to the date of the hearing, or, and then keep it up 15 days post date.
So, yeah,
So it's
30
still
days.
going-
It's
it's
temporary.
going out
content.
And that's addressing what we're all talking about.
So it's still up during the appeal period.
Yeah.
If the date passes, you still have that time.
I think I like that
that's the
idea.
way it's done in the borough.
That's how we do it.
I think that's.
Because, I mean, our whole point is, the whole point of John's presentation is to encourage neighbors talking to neighbors. And I think that would be preventative on many scenarios that have been coming.
Yeah, it works in the borough. It's similar to Mystic, where it's a very walkable area. People go by same houses all the time. They see something.
And I agree. I think a yellow sign's more visible and, mail you might get for your neighbor, like, what do they want? You just-
Yeah, get something from the town or from a neighbor. Yeah.
So then,
If you put tax division on, do they open it? I notice it comes from the town.
since we've been trying to change stuff, we've been asking for a copy of the Word document of the HCC handbook for months now.
Okay,
Can we please get it by the next meeting?
the Word document. Okay.
The Word version so that we can do a track changes ourselves.
Okay.
Suggest all
I'll
the
ask-
changes we want to make and then push this thing through with an actual change.
Lauren should be, if not listening, she'll hear this. So Lauren, a Word copy of the handbook, if possible.
So can I amend my motion then to have our rules, including,
I think we should just do this as one.
We should just reject it and then create a new one.
No, what I'm saying is I think we should just do this as part of this rewrite thing.
Oh, okay.
Because otherwise I think
You get bogged.
you gotta
into
get
many-
public comment.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
We're gonna have
can
to,
we do a rule change on a motion though, Tom? I think we can. I think it's a good stopgap till we get, it's gonna take us a year to get that book reread.
do, but you'd have to notice it.
A rule change? I'm not certain, because it's more of a policy issue than it is anything. So, I
But do we
don't know.
vote to have the town?
If you want to see it first, we should probably, take your time with it and make sure you do it right.
Yeah, okay, so continue it to the next.
Yeah,
meeting then?
like I said, I'll bring in a copy from the borough. You can look at it. You can say, make these changes to it and do it the way you want.
All right, well, I make a motion to
It's-
continue it to the next meeting then, if you guys,
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
aye.
But-
Can I make a motion for a quick recess?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, thank you. Second,
Second,
Yeah.
all right.
yeah, no,
Okay. Abstain.
no, I think that's a great, because. I mean, we don't want anyone to be upset. I feel bad this woman is upset and. And I think a yellow sign would have just,
Remember, we're all on this, but we're adjourned.
oh, I'm sorry. I was just trying to say that was
Yeah,
great.
no,
agenda.
just anything there.
I'm not trying to speak ill of anybody. I'm just saying that. I like that.
Okay. No, if we talk about it, we should just.
Okay, sorry.
It is. Remember the neighbor in the borough flipped out on us? You had to shut our project down and then open it back up.
Yeah.
It was there.
Yeah, exactly.
Still ugly house. 80s condo we redid. It looked just as bad when we started as when we finished.
Oh, no.
It was all because of that one like vent in the bottom.
This is a very nice older man that,
She quit the commission soon after that.
yeah,
She didn't get her way.
he was an engineer and he just, had no design concept. There was like a window here, window here, window here. One was like this. It
All
was
right, thank you, guys.
We'll reopen. So we'll, what were you gonna move? We're gonna continue.
Continue.
Continue into the next
All right.
hearing,
We did.
next meeting, rather.
So I just want to just discuss the thing about what the attorney was saying with regards to the architect, so we can just discuss that. So I make a motion to add that to the agenda.
I second.
As ramifications, I guess. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. That's on, so. Who is responsible? Because our guidebook or handbook says that we can implement fines and we just. It seems like we're having like this problem consistently now.
Yeah, the fines, it goes through as you stated before, it has to go to Superior Court. So it's the judge that imposes fines. So it has to go through that process.
Do we censure an architect? Do we?
Well, there has to be a violation, like you said. So if they choose, like if they call me out for a final inspection and it's 7 feet, I say, no, it's got to be 6 feet. I mean, we could, I'd have to check the time frame because there is an issue of I mean, you have 5 years to complete an application, but if they're calling to complete it, then like there needs to be a time frame. It gets lowered, and if they're just ignoring it, we might have, we send an enforcement letter, please lower the fence that you requested a CO on.
We've never done this, but it just, doesn't it seem like we're having a consistent problem in one person in particular? I mean, this is the third thing.
Yeah.
Which
I feel that way.
furthermore, like, I don't think it's a very good idea that. Fort Rachel continues to just wait, like, that stuff needs to get resolved.
Mhm.
And they don't have an approval right now. And I will say it on the record, you guys never, the town never should have accepted a whole second set of plans that had all that type of changes without ever.
Yeah, I never saw them. Right.
So, I mean, that's really clear in the handbook that any changes have to come back.
Yeah, I didn't see it. We didn't review it at the time.
So I have a question about this, and again, I could be right, wrong, or in the middle. And I'm not talking ill about anybody anyway, to be clear.
Mhm.
I've noticed sometimes what I'll hear from the town attorney compared to town staff, and then when I fact check it, on, let's say the State Historic Preservation Office, not everybody's on the same page. So on some of these issues, i.e. what our enforcement, I guess, abilities are. Maybe on certain projects that have been deemed or approved that I don't agree with, or maybe even the issue we're dealing with tonight. We have that State Historic Preservation Office training coming March 31st.
Mhm.
John Burr already says Rich Cody's going to attend it. I think in all fairness to us and everybody, that these questions need to be specifically asked. Because that way, if the town attorney and the State Historic Preservation Office, who know the state law that pertains to this, I mean, it's their specialty, right?
Correct.
If there's anything that we're not aware of, or is one side is less correct than the other, I think that's really the time to hash it out. And I think that's gonna put us, you know, in a footing where we're not making a mistake.
Mhm.
It's gonna be fair, you know. I don't know if it's okay for me to say this, and you can shut me down if it's not. I mean, I do think the situation we just had, it tells me, no, you have no choice. That doesn't sit with me. Just in life, I think like there's always got to be a safety net, but that's just me. But I think having the experts tell us yes, no, or in between is really important.
I just want to be very clear, like, I did not like saying that, like, I did not want to say that,
I understand that.
but I do think that you make a decision, whether it's right or wrong, or
Right.
you miss stuff or whatever, I mean, it's the same thing.
I just think if her attorney's correct and there was a material misrepresentation made,
But even he said if there was a material misrepresentation, that doesn't matter anyways.
I get it, and I'm not talking.
My
This is
question to the offender seems to be this.
right.
We're three matters where the same thing has happened again. Present one thing, you know, misrepresent it, lie, whatever you want to call it. Not present it the correct way, not come back for anything. Ever to say, oops, sorry, whatever. It's a small town, like, you can't do that.
Also, I think, I didn't say it whenever she was up here, but when the applicant was saying about an Airbnb, it's the next door neighbor. There's a definite Airbnb where the owner lives in a smaller house.
But she mentioned it in her presentation that the Airbnb.
She said the people that made the fence had the Airbnb.
Oh, I heard her say, maybe I misheard her, but I heard her say
I
that
thought she was talking about her neighbor.
she was talking about her neighbor because the person who built the fence had verbal interactions with
With that neighbor,
With
okay,
that
that
neighbor.
neighbor.
that's what it was.
That's how I heard it. So I just think
Just thinking
the
that.
presentation,
No, I agree with you, but what difference does it
That
make?
shouldn't make a difference.
What difference does it make whether it's
that
guy
house. was-
streaking through the yard? I
Right.
mean, the reality is the handbook says to preserve the cultural heritage of
Yeah.
the town and, you know, harmonious design and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't say like fences are okay if the neighbor's cuckoo.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like, I don't think the decision was made because it was that house as opposed to the other house. I think just the wrong house was pointed to in the original presentation.
I personally, when people throw comments like that or editorial things, I ignore it.
Yeah.
Because I'm just.
It's outside of our purview.
paying attention.
Yeah, no, but I'm just adjusting what was.
The only thing I would have, had I known there was her fence there, I don't think I would have voted to put a fence next to a fence. But that's just me personally. Would it have changed the approval? Probably not.
But we did on that High Street thing. There was the people that had the phone difficulty. I don't know if you remember that fun one. Yeah. The first house on High Street, when you're coming down Baptist Hill and you make the right. On
Yep.
High Street. There was the first house and then there's like the newer salt box or something like that that used to be the Des Maris' house. I think
Yeah, and Cheryl's.
on the right, that owner wanted to put a fence on the right side. I was pretty opposed to it because it was a vinyl fence.
I think
They
it's
ended
before my time. I don't remember it, or I missed that meeting. Yeah.
The commission ended up approving it. But there was a fence, it was asked 3 times, what about the neighbor's fence? Because it was like, hey, why is there a fence gonna be next to a fence? And in the end, they still approved it.
Right. I'm just speaking for myself.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But it got back to my point, which is why, because you had the fence there, I can't put a fence up.
Right.
You know. I mean, that's what easements and you can buy a visual easement. Someone can give you a visual easement. Someone can prevent you from doing whatever. You can record in the land records for all the time, like. It's not the case.
Right.
I do think it looks stupid with the two next to each other, but. I don't know. It's also not our job to protect her view from her property. It's our job to protect the community. So. My last comment is that it is a volunteer commission and we have no funding whatsoever. So we have jobs. All of us take a lot of time and it's tough to get out there and go whatever.
Yeah, you do the best you can with what you got.
Yeah, and so I mean, that's me. Sundays when I'm driving from my house to my parents' house to check on them is when I take that extra hour to.
Yeah, I go walk
Drive the
around
property.
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
But I can tell you the color of that house with the fences up.
Mhm.
I can tell you how many chairs I got in the yard. It's gonna walk by there all the time. I don't need to go out there and take a look at it. So. But I also don't need to go take a look at a vent on the side of the house. I mean, it's there. I don't know. I just didn't appreciate the kind of tone, but so be it. So I guess my only question is, can someone look into it prior to our SHPO meeting about what? If there's anything we can do, even if it's just writing a letter saying, please stop presenting in this manner
To,
to someone that we feel is doing something that they shouldn't be doing,
yeah, I can look at that.
you know? Because I don't think going the route of starting to sue people or bring them to court that's a waste of time. Just because it's not that bad. You have probably more important things to be dealing with.
Yeah, and I can check in that.
Well, also.
Well, that was also, I mean, he designed it and he was there, but and I even talked to them. He was, after he did what he did here, he was out of it. He wasn't part of the construction or anything like that. So he sent the approval to Luther Fence and Luther Fence went out and did the work. So.
I know, but
Yeah.
this seems to be misrepresented. Vizetta was a whole mess.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it's
For Rachel
times.
now, it's,
Yeah.
you created a whole nother set of plans and you submitted them and you didn't even think to come, even though you're supposed to be the expert.
Yeah.
You know. If I was the owner, I'd be livid. Whether or not he's a building professional, but I know, like, I wouldn't do it, you know. Look, there's one thing that you gotta add a step because the ground doesn't work, like,
Yeah.
that's life. A window's gotta move 6 inches over, big deal, that's nothing. But I mean, this kind of stuff is like,
Yeah, even if they're gonna be like. You know, gonna be approved, no problem. It should still come back.
correct, yeah. Just because otherwise there's no point in doing this, like,
It's not what you saw to begin with.
right,
So can I just ask a procedural thing?
Hmm?
You go out there, it's 6 feet. Do you just call, in a perfect world,
Hmm?
in a perfect world, do you just call it Luther Fence and say, come back and drop it 8 inches?
I mean, I would tell the neighbor, whomever, I was there. Yeah, it needs to be 6 feet.
But you wouldn't talk to Luther Fence, you talk to the owner.
Yeah.
Okay, that was.
Whoever called, if they're still the contractor in charge and they call me, but if the owner does, then whomever.
are you really sure about the grade thing? Because we've raised the lower grade plenty of times to make things. You know,
I just, because it wasn't called out.
Fence height.
no, I just mean that, like, what grade's acceptable? Because how many times have you and we've done projects where you have to adjust the grade to be able, like, if you want to put an accessory structure, it's gotta be, what, I don't know what the height is, 14 feet or something like that, no more for a shed or barn or whatever.
For a certain time, yeah, 14 feet, yeah, right.
Yeah, well, average grade, so you shift the grade a little.
Yeah.
Fill it in.
Yeah, and I can see that with a building, with a fence, because it's just so two-dimensional linear. It's like where to
Yeah.
have it there, otherwise there's gonna be like a 2-foot gap. And then 6 foot, and you didn't say.
It's
No,
it said
definitely-
6
definitely
foot
a vague
maximum.
Area subject to question, I mean.
Yeah, so there's no other way to
You're
measure
building
it.
a
6
fence
foot.
and then suddenly the grade drops off and then it comes back up again.
Right, and the fence and everything that they demonstrated was printed to the bottom of natural grade, and they didn't show any diagram saying we have to give a 2-foot gap for floodwaters, and then it's gonna be this tall.
So is it 8 feet or is it?
No, I don't think, I mean, if it's anything, it's above me. I don't know for sure how tall it is.
I guess that's what I'm getting back to is the reasonableness of it. If you go down if you go down it and you find, like, to Todd's point, that it dips a little bit here and there and they filled it in to make it
Yeah.
equal, like, to me, that's not doing anything more than just leveling.
No,
the yard.
and that's fine. If it's still 6 foot and they've done whatever they've done to the grade, then that's.
Right,
Yeah.
but if you go and you find that they, you know, the entire
7
property
feet, they put a
does
foot of
this,
grade.
like, right, then that's
It would
not
be
the
agreed.
intention of.
Exactly. And it's the intent, if the intent was it washed out and they're filling it in, they're gonna compact it and they're gonna put landscaping all around it. And if it still measures 6 foot, it's fine.
That's all I got.
You have to approve- you have to approve the minutes.
No, well, Ted's not here to approve him.
I make a motion to,
Do we even have any minutes?
make a motion to defer the February 7th approval of the minutes to next meeting.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to adjourn.
We did policy, we did new business. And we did old business.
Now we adjourn. I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, for adjourned. We didn't have to.
Thanks.
I just want to be really official.
Remember,